the soul magnetism that triggers the predators. I never thought I'd be talking about this, but once you see it, you'll never unsee it again. There's a hidden war happening in this world, just beneath the surface of ordinary interactions. It's a war between two archetypes, the narcissist and the dark chosen one. And if you've ever felt like you attract people who try to control, diminish, or destroy you for no reason, this message isn't just for you, it is you. Because there's something they don't want you to know. Narcissists are obsessed with hunting dark chosen ones, not by accident, not by coincidence, but by design. We have to begin with the truth they've buried. Real darkness is not evil. Real darkness is depth. It's the part of the soul that holds ancient memory, deep vision, and the power to see through illusions. It's the raw, unfiltered, untamed frequency that awakens when you stop pretending to be good and start becoming whole. And those who carry this darkness, what I call the dark chosen ones, are not villains. They are initiates. They are those who were born to descend into the matrix of suffering, not to get lost in it, but to illuminate it from the inside. But every force of true transformation in the universe has its opposition. And that opposition knows it cannot destroy the chosen directly. So it seduces, it mimics, it infiltrates. And that's where the narcissist comes in.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let me be clear when I say narcissist. I'm not talking about someone who takes too many selfies or brags about their job. I'm talking about those whose entire identity is a mask designed to extract energy from others. These are energetic vampires, soul predators, spirits who have long since abandoned their own shadow work and now survive by feeding on the light of others. But not just any light, they're drawn to the dark light, the sacred fire that only the dark chosen ones carry. Why? Because it's ancient, because it's terrifyingly pure, because it can expose them. And so they hunt you not for who you pretend to be, but for who you really are. Have you ever noticed the pattern? You walk into a room, and without saying a word, someone targets you. You haven't done anything. In fact, you may have even shrunk yourself to avoid attention. But instead of being ignored, you're attacked, isolated, gaslighted, or charmed into submission, only to be discarded later. That's not a coincidence. That's resonance. When a dark chosen one enters a space, their energy disrupts the psychic equilibrium of any false identity nearby. The narcissist, whose power depends on illusion, feels that disruption like a siren in their nervous system. Your presence alone threatens their entire paradigm, and so they go on the offensive. You see, narcissists are addicted to control. But they're not just trying to control behavior, they're trying to control narratives. The story they tell themselves about who's powerful and who's not, who's worthy and who's flawed. When a dark chosen one appears, that narrative starts to crack. Because you know things you shouldn't. You sense things you don't speak. You carry a frequency they can't explain, and it terrifies them. So they do what predators do. They isolate you. They charm you to gain access. Then they confuse you, gaslight you, make you doubt your own voice. Not because it's weak, but because it's dangerously true. And this is where it gets deeper. Narcissists are not random. They are karmic agents, Spiritual teachers in disguise, unconscious, yes, but precise. They show up in your life exactly when you're about to remember who you are. And their job, to test your boundaries, to trigger your wounds, to make you question your worth. Why? Because only the dark chosen ones can alchemize that kind of pressure into power. Only we can transmute that poison into medicine. But you have to wake up. You have to see the pattern. You have to stop blaming yourself and start asking the real question. What is it about my energy that disrupts the matrix so deeply? It must be silenced. That question is the blade that cuts through the illusion. Here's something practical. If you keep attracting narcissists, it's not because you're broken. It's because you haven't yet claimed the power hiding in your darkness. Narcissists don't attack your weakness. They attack your potential. They see the parts of you you haven't owned yet. The parts you're still hiding behind people pleasing, behind spiritual bypassing, behind the fear of being too much. But let me tell you something, you were meant to be too much. You were born to be a disruption, a mirror, a force. And the narcissist, in all their unconscious fear, senses that. That's why they obsess. That's why they return. That's why they love bomb and ghost and hoover and triangulate. Because they're not just trying to control your life, they're trying to steal your fire. But that fire, it's not theirs to take. It's yours to wield. And the moment you stop running from it, you become uncatchable. The hunt ends the moment you stop being prey and become presence. That's the shift. That's the moment they realize they can't feed on you anymore. And that's when they disappear, not because you fought them, but because you remembered yourself. So I'll ask you, deep from the core of this transmission, what if the narcissists in your life were not curses, but initiations? What if they were here to wake up the part of you that forgot it was born to walk in shadow and still shine? Let that question echo. Let it rattle something inside you. Because in the next part, I'm going to take you into the battlefield itself, the soul arena, where these energetic wars play out on levels most people can't even perceive. And once you see it, you'll never be hunted the same way again. Inside the soul arena, where identity is weaponized, you ever feel like you're being watched not by eyes, but by intentions? Like something is scanning you, measuring you, calculating your value not as a person, but as a source of energy. That's not paranoia. That's perception. Because once you awaken to the truth of who you are, a dark chosen one, you begin to see the world not just as matter, but as a battlefield of frequency. And in that battlefield, identity is not just how you define yourself, it's how others try to control you. Welcome to the soul arena, where narcissists don't just hunt you, they weaponize your reflection. Let's break this down at the deepest level. Every soul has a signature, a vibrational code that speaks louder than words, louder than appearance, louder than action. The dark chosen ones carry a signature that is encoded with disruption, truth, transformation, rebellion, and ancient memory. We don't walk into rooms gently, we shift the grid. And this signature cannot be faked. It cannot be copied. But it can be distorted. And that's exactly what narcissists are designed to do. They don't just feed on your light. They try to rewrite your code from the inside out. And their primary weapon? Identity manipulation. It often starts small. A compliment that feels a little too perfect. a question that plants doubt, a connection that feels cosmic but something in your gut doesn't trust it. That's because these aren't just people. These are energetic systems, archetypes. They mirror what you want to see, then slowly twist it. They tell you you're special, then accuse you of being selfish. They say you're powerful, then punish you every time you express it. They frame their abuse as your responsibility. That's not love. That's possession. You are not being loved for who you are being hunted for what you represent. And that representation is dangerous to the false self. Because the narcissist's entire identity is a mask, a carefully constructed performance designed to elicit admiration, control, and obedience. But when a dark chosen one walks in, the energy exposes the lie. Not through confrontation, but through presence. Your very existence becomes a mirror they can't control. And so, they try to shatter the mirror. Not with fists, but with stories. They start rewriting your narrative. You're too emotional. You're too intense. You're imagining things. You're the problem. And slowly, if you're not anchored in your truth, you start to believe it. That's the soul arena. It's not about fists, it's about frequency. It's not about words, it's about codes. Now here's where it gets even deeper. Many dark chosen ones were conditioned early in life to question their reality. That conditioning wasn't random. It was part of the setup. Most of us were born into families or systems where narcissistic energy was already present. Why? Because the matrix knows the power we carry. And the earlier it can fracture our identity, the easier it is to delay our awakening. So we grow up doubting our intuition, suppressing our rage, pleasing others to avoid punishment. And all of that creates the perfect opening for narcissists later in life. They don't just see your power, they see your wound. And they speak to both, like a double-edged sword. But here's the twist. The soul arena is not a punishment. It's a sacred proving ground. Because every time a narcissist enters your life, they bring with them a question: will you choose your mask or your soul? Will you abandon yourself to stay loved, or will you risk abandonment to stay true? That's the real war. And every time you choose alignment over approval, you reclaim a piece of your power. You stop being prey and start becoming presence. And when that happens, something shifts in the field. The narcissist loses their grip. The hooks fall out. The spell breaks. Because the only thing that ever gave them power was your forgetting. Here's something practical you can do right now. Write down every label you've ever been given by someone who tried to control you. Too much, too sensitive, crazy, selfish. Now ask yourself, was that label true, or was it a weapon? Was it feedback, or was it a form of control? And when you answer that question honestly, you'll feel something unlock. Because that label was never yours. It was part of their strategy. And now, you're done playing their game. The most dangerous thing a dark chosen one can do is remember. Remember that you are not here to be understood by the masses. You are not here to be liked. You are here to embody a frequency that threatens systems because it liberates souls. And narcissists are agents of the system. Not consciously, but energetically. They are attracted to the very thing they've lost, authenticity. And rather than reclaim their own, they try to consume yours. but they can only consume what you abandon. And once you stop abandoning yourself, they can't reach you anymore. Let me ask you a question that could change everything. What identity have you worn just to survive? And who would you become if you let it burn? Let that question sink in. Because in the next part, I'm going to take you into the final initiation, the moment when the hunter becomes powerless and the dark chosen one steps fully into their throne. It's not about revenge. It's not about ego. It's about liberation. And when you feel it, you'll never play small again. The throne of the unhunted, ending the cycle forever. There comes a moment in every dark chosen one's life when the pattern breaks, not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop asking, why do they keep doing this to me? And you start asking, why did I keep forgetting who I am? That's the moment the throne appears, not a physical one, not even symbolic, but an energetic state of sovereignty. It doesn't make you invincible. It makes you unavailable. You're no longer on the menu. The narcissists can still see you, but they can't hook you, because you've stepped into the throne of the unhunted. And in that seat, the game ends forever. Let's go deeper. The throne is not about dominance. It's not about becoming a predator in return. That's still the matrix. That's still the lower game. The throne is about remembrance. It's the energetic embodiment of the truth you forgot while trying to survive. That you are not here to be consumed. You are here to create. That your emotions are not liabilities. They are codes. That your rage is not a flaw, it is righteous architecture. That your intuition is not paranoia, it's prophecy. And once you sit in that frequency, you realize something terrifying and liberating all at once. You were never the hunted. You were always the test. Narcissists don't just stumble into your life. They come when your soul is on the edge of evolution. They come when you're about to level up. They come to show you the parts of yourself you still haven't claimed. They mirror your unresolved fragments, not to destroy you, but to force you to choose. Will you keep dimming to stay safe? Or will you burn so brightly that the illusion can't survive your light? That's the final initiation. And almost no one talks about it because most people never make it this far. They keep circling the same karmic loops, the same toxic lovers, the same manipulative bosses, the same spiritual bypassers disguised as healers. Why? Because they're still trying to find safety. But the throne doesn't offer safety. It offers truth, and truth will burn everything that isn't you. You don't claim the throne by being perfect. You claim it by being whole. That means no more hiding your grief. No more spiritualizing your trauma. No more bypassing your rage. No more shrinking your voice for the comfort of those who fear your power. You speak, you stand, you walk away when it's time. You say no without explanation. You say yes without guilt. Because you no longer need permission to exist. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be revolutionary. And that revolution begins in your nervous system. Let's make it practical. If you want to exit the narcissist cycle forever, you don't need another boundary script. You need a nervous system that believes you belong. You need to rewire your body to recognize that love does not require betrayal. That connection does not require emotional starvation. That being seen does not require being used. That's not just therapy. That's rewilding the soul. And it starts by reclaiming the parts of you that made you a target in the first place: your sensitivity, your knowing, your intensity, your refusal to fake it. Those are not weaknesses. They are weapons of awakening. And when you wield them with intention, you become untouchable, not because people stop trying, but because their hooks can't find anything to latch onto. Here's the deepest truth I've learned. Narcissists are not addicted to power. They are addicted to reflection. They don't love themselves, so they seek others to reflect back a false self. But you reflect truth. And that is intolerable to someone who lives in illusion. You reflect the shadow they refuse to face. You reflect the power they've disowned. That's why they try to destroy you. Not because you're weak, but because you're real. And when you sit in your throne, you become a mirror they can't manipulate. They see themselves clearly, and that's the scariest thing of all. Let me ask you this. What part of your soul have you been dimming just to stay digestible to those who were never meant to understand you? Sit with that. Let it sting. Because that sting is the doorway. When you stop editing your essence, you start radiating your signature. And that signature is what calls the true ones to you, the allies, the soul family, the real mirrors. The ones who don't flinch when they see your shadow. The ones who bow to your pain because they've walked through theirs. The ones who don't want to own you, fix you, or tame you, but to build with you. You see, the throne doesn't isolate you. It clarifies your field. It filters out the noise. It makes room for real connections. But you must be willing to lose everything false to gain everything true. That's the cost. That's the trade. And once you make it, you realize it was never a loss, it was a liberation. You don't need to explain your decisions. You don't need to justify your distance. You don't need to defend your boundaries. Because kings and queens don't negotiate with chaos. They command order not through control, but through embodiment. So here's your practice. Every day for the next 7 days, speak one truth you've been afraid to say. It could be to yourself. It could be to someone else. It could be in your journal. But speak it, loud or soft, whispered or screamed, because every truth you speak reclaims a piece of your throne. Every time you refuse to be silenced, the old matrix cracks. And eventually you'll wake up one morning and realize they can't reach you anymore. You're still visible, but you're no longer edible. Your energy is sealed. Your voice is sovereign. Your field is protected because you remembered. And when you remember, the narcissist disappears not because they were defeated, but because the frequency they feed on no longer exists in you. You're no longer a mirror of their delusion. You're a mirror of their absence. And that is the most powerful thing a dark chosen one can become, a being so anchored in truth that illusion collapses in their presence. So now I ask you, from the deepest place in your soul, are you ready to stop surviving and start sovereigning? Because in the final part, I'll take you beyond the personal, beyond the healing, beyond the survival, into the real work, why you were hunted in the first place, and what your true mission has always been. To awaken the collective by becoming the one thing the narcissist fears most, a soul that cannot be owned. The soul that cannot be owned, your final mission. Now we come to the heart of it. The truth that has been whispered to you in dreams, echoed in your deepest moments of despair, and hidden behind every betrayal you've ever endured. You were never just a person. You were never just a victim. You were never just someone trying to survive. You are a coded soul, a dark chosen one sent here not to be understood, not to be praised, not even to be accepted, but to awaken the grid. And the reason narcissists have hunted you your entire life is because you carry the frequency that dissolves slavery. Not physical slavery, not societal slavery, but spiritual slavery, the kind that keeps humanity asleep in its own illusion. You see, the narcissist archetype is not just a personality disorder. It is a spiritual virus, a consciousness parasite that cannot create, only consume. It exists in people, yes, but also in institutions, ideologies, religious systems, and even some spiritual teachings. It thrives on hierarchy, manipulation, and fear-based control. And it cannot survive in the presence of a soul that knows it cannot be owned. That's why it targets you. That's why it invests so much energy in confusing you, gaslighting you, seducing you into self-doubt. Because your soul holds a truth that, once activated, becomes contagious. You're not just a being, you're a frequency transmitter. And your mission is not personal healing. It is planetary liberation. Let's break this down. Why does the narcissist need to own you? Why the obsession with control, with dominance, with rewiring your mind? Because your autonomy threatens their illusion of power. Because your capacity to think, feel, and see independently is like sunlight to a vampire. Because when you stand in your full authenticity, you become a mirror, not of their false self, but of their emptiness. And they will do anything to avoid that reflection. So they try to fill their void with you. They try to own your energy, your time, your identity. But it never satisfies them, because ownership can never replace integration. And that's what you've been doing, integrating, unraveling, remembering. Every breakdown you've survived, every betrayal you've alchemized, every identity you've shed has been preparation for this moment. The moment you no longer ask, why me? And instead declare, of course me. Because who else could do this work? Who else could carry the medicine of shadow and light in equal measure? Who else could walk into the darkest spaces and not lose themselves? Who else could be hunted and still choose compassion over vengeance, truth over validation, sovereignty over safety? Only you. The dark chosen ones, the ones who were born with a memory of freedom so strong, no amount of social conditioning could fully erase it. And that memory is your mission. You ever notice how the moment you start to rise, the narcissist returns? Maybe not the same one. Maybe a new face, a new voice, a new disguise. But the pattern is familiar. The same tactics, the same subtle attempts to pull you back into the cycle. That's not random. That's the system trying to reassert control. Because your rising is a threat to the entire illusion. You're not just healing, you're disrupting. You're not just moving on, you're rewriting timelines. And that kind of power doesn't go unnoticed. But here's what they don't realize. Every time they tried to break you, they activated you. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every manipulation refined your intuition. Every cycle you ended became a blueprint for someone else's freedom. You're not just surviving narcissists. You're dismantling their hold on the collective psyche. And you're doing it by becoming the one thing they can't touch, a soul that cannot be owned. Let me ask you something that goes beyond healing, beyond revenge, beyond understanding. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to prove your worth and started embodying your mission? Because that's the shift. That's the pivot from hunted to sovereign, from empath to architect, from survivor to source. You're no longer here to decode the narcissist. You're here to outgrow the entire frequency. You're here to become a living transmission that dissolves illusion on contact. So what does that look like in practice? It means creating without asking for permission. It means leaving spaces where your light is only welcomed if it's dimmed. It means speaking truth even when it shakes the room. It means refusing to play the emotional caretaker to broken systems. It means trusting your inner vision more than external validation. And most of all, it means staying free not just physically, but vibrationally. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your explanation. Your existence is your statement. Your path is your protest. Your joy is your rebellion. And your freedom, that's the revolution. The narcissist's greatest fear is not that you'll fight back. It's that you'll stop needing them altogether. That you'll walk away without looking back. That you'll reclaim your time, your voice, your purpose, and use it to awaken others. Because here's the final truth. You are not just hunted for your light. You are hunted for your ability to awaken light in others. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you sacred. That's what makes you chosen. Not in a hierarchical sense, not in an egotistical way, but in the sense that your soul chose this path, chose this fire, chose this mission. And now it's time to walk it fully. So I leave you with this. The narcissists were never the enemy. They were the gatekeepers testing your readiness, sharpening your discernment, forcing you to choose yourself over and over again. And now, you're through the gate. You're on the other side. You've remembered. You've risen. You've reclaimed. And nothing can own you again. Because when a dark, chosen one remembers who they are, the game ends. The hunter fades. The illusion collapses. And the soul becomes sovereign. You are the soul that cannot be owned. Now go. Walk your mission. Speak your truth. Burn bright in your wholeness. And never again apologize for the power you carry.